Do you ever feel that you're just about getting your life sorted, only to get knocked back by life circumstances? Where even with the best intentions, your plans are ruined by something going wrong? I remember a time in my life where my entire day, good or bad, was always the result of what was happening to me. I even went as far as to believe that things happened to me in threes. For example, there'd be no traffic on my way to work, and I'd find a good parking spot. But oh boy, let's not have a third good thing happen, because that is when the fucking is triggered. Or I'd have an argument with my boss on the same day that my husband lets me know that he has to work late, and so I need to do school pickup and feed the kids and get them into bed on my own, and then I'd sit and wait for something else to go wrong. And it normally did. I'd burn the food, or I'd forget the water was running in the tub, and that was it. My day was a disaster, and tomorrow would be no better. So on the 25th of April 2022, the first day of my retinal detachment journey, when I woke up with 10% of my vision obscured, I was terrified. I'd never even heard the term retinal detachment before, and learned that the reason I was very quickly going blind was because my retina, which is the part at the back of the eyeball, indicated here in red, the part that receives images and sends messages to the brain, this had literally detached. Why now? Why was this happening to me? And what else could go wrong? We had just moved to Spain, and I still had so much to do to get settled, to learn the language, to find a doctor. I had just learned how to pronounce ayuntamiento and order a café con leche for myself. The next 12 months of surgery after surgery, after failed surgery after failed surgery, were the most challenging I had ever experienced. But it was during this time that I seriously and diligently picked up my journal, and I wrote about my experience. I'd write down everything that happened in the day. I'd write down every feeling that I had that day, and I'd write down every thought that I could remember. I also spent hours and hours listening to podcasts and reading books about the mind-body connection. And it was during this time that I read about the mirror principle, a concept rooted in psychology and in spirituality that suggests that your life is simply a reflection of what's in your mind. That the way we experience and perceive the world is greatly influenced by our thoughts, our feelings, and most importantly, our beliefs. In other words, life doesn't happen to you, it's simply a reflection of what's in your mind. It's like you're either a thermometer or a thermostat. Let's do a little test. If I were to ask you if you're a thermometer or a thermostat, what would you think? A thermometer shows us exactly what the temperature is in the room, right? And if you're a thermometer person, you show up exactly how the world is treating you. And your emotional state, whether you're happy or not, is a direct reflection of what's happening in your life, or what's coming at you from the outside world. On the other hand, a thermostat sets the temperature in the room to exactly what you want it to be. And thermostat people are the ones who wake up in the morning and set their setting on joy and gratitude and emanate that all around them. I must admit, when I first heard about mirrors and thermometers, I was doubtful. I mean, have you seen the shit that's happened to me? This woo-woo stuff, this spiritual, mystical stuff, has no basis in conventional science or evidence. But still, I was intrigued. I could see how it kind of made sense. I just needed proof. So I continued my research, this time searching for more scientific evidence of how our thinking influences our outcomes. And I found an astonishing amount of evidence. One of the most recent studies that I read about was one done by Dr. Alia Klum of Stanford University. In the study, she looked at patients with a peanut allergy. Now, my friend's son has a peanut allergy, and it's pretty scary. She said she's told me that even the slightest exposure can cause his body to go into shock. Anyway, in the study by Dr. Klum, they divided the patients into two groups, and both groups were given the exact same treatment. But to group number one, at the beginning of the study, they explained that side effects like hives and nausea were likely, and that it was going to be hard. But to get the full benefit of the treatment, they just needed to hang in there. And to group number 2, they explained that side effects like hives and nausea were going to be likely, but that the symptoms they experienced were a sign that their body was getting stronger and that the treatment was working. Group number 2 amazingly showed a reduction in anxiety, a reduction in symptoms, and the treatment actually worked better for them than it did for group number 1. The participants in group number 2 went into the study believing that their body was going to get stronger, and what they believed became their true outcome. This study, together with so many others that I found, clearly points to us being able to use our mind-body connection to get a better outcome than we initially thought was possible. And that we can use our minds to either accept being controlled by our circumstances and our beliefs, or we can take charge, challenge our beliefs, and change our outcomes. But still, I wanted to know how. What exactly happens in my brain that has this almost miraculous effect? Until the 1970s or 80s, it was generally believed that our brains developed only for the first 25-ish years of our life. And then it began its slow and steady slope downhill as we aged, slowly losing brain cells, causing cognitive decline and memory loss in our old age. But luckily for those of us already in the second half of our life, scientific evidence and technology has debunked this. And in fact, evidence shows that our brains are able to produce new neural networks and, in fact, new neurons all through our life. And that we can actually influence brain development through the things that we choose to do every day, through repetition. And if you think about it, we all have very, very hardwired programming that has been formed over decades and decades of repetitive actions, whether conscious or unconsciously. But science has proven that our brains are amazing and we can learn anything we want at any time of our life. A new language, a musical instrument, a new habit, a new way of thinking. We can quite literally become a different person if we wanted to. And one of the key ways that we do this is through our brain chemicals. Research has shown that much of our everyday behavior is driven by brain chemicals that are triggered by our thoughts, feelings, and emotions. Negative thoughts trigger stress chemicals like cortisol and adrenaline. And positive thoughts trigger feel-good chemicals like dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. These chemicals produce sensations inside our bodies, which we experience as feelings. And as we consciously register those feelings, our mind creates thoughts to explain and justify those exact same feelings. It's like a loop. So how does this work? Well, if I'm thinking about my daughter who is just about to turn 15, who hardly speaks to me anymore, she comes home from school with her headphones on her head and goes straight to her bedroom, shuts the door, and I don't see her until dinner time. Also, her room is a disaster. I am so tired of telling her to clean up. Oh my God, what kind of teenager am I raising? These thoughts trigger stress chemicals in my body, like cortisol and adrenaline. And because the body is so good at getting us ready for a possible fight or flight, right? When my body registers these chemicals, it sends a message to my brain that gets my heart racing, my blood pressure increases, and I start breathing faster. And these feelings and sensations inside my body trigger thoughts about being more anxious and nervous and agitated. Luckily, the opposite is also true. If I'm thinking about my daughter, who is just about to turn 15, and how she spent weeks and weeks before Christmas alone in her bedroom, secretly crocheting gifts for all of her family and her friends. She has taught herself to crochet, to play the guitar, to draw, and has so many other amazing, creative, self-taught talents. She is going to rock this world. I am raising a gorgeous soul who will have a positive impact on everybody she meets. These thoughts trigger endorphins, serotonin, oxytocin, and even dopamine inside my body. And my brain registers these and responds with feelings of love and admiration and pride and even more positive thoughts. Oh my word, does this mean that What I think and feel and believe about myself and the outside world creates chemicals inside my brain that actually reinforces those same thoughts, feelings, and beliefs. And that it's not too late for me to change and do something with this information. I mean, can this hardwired thermometer rewire herself to be more like a thermostat? I mean, can you imagine what you could do? The power you would have if you could control your experiences instead of your experiences controlling you. Right now, you're probably asking, so how do I use this power? I understand the science and I understand the woo-woo, but what exactly do I do with that? Well, when my retina detached for the second time and I needed yet another surgery, I was at my lowest point. I was conjuring up all the ways that things could go wrong in surgery. I was seriously petrified of going back into the hospital, mainly because my dad and then my best friend Vanessa had gone into the hospital and never returned. I seriously needed to change my thinking. So I kind of challenged myself to test out this concept to see if changing how I think about an outcome can have any effect on the outcome itself. I mean, what harm is there? If it works, fantastic. If it doesn't work, no loss, right? It's called Mindshift 75 because you journal for 75 days. It works just like a coach, but you can do this by yourself once you believe in your own power. And all you need for this is a notebook, a pen, and 5 to 10 minutes a day. It's a super simple yet powerful 5-step process to align your thoughts and actions with your desired outcome. For me, that was a healthy eye, a healthy mind, and abundance in my life. The 5 steps form the word GARDA to make it easier to remember. G is for gratitude. Now I know you may be sick and tired of people telling you to be grateful, and sometimes life really does suck and it feels like nothing is going your way, but just do this one small thing. Every day for 75 days, write down in your journal 5 good things in your life. Heck, write down 1 good thing if that is all you have for the day. Sometimes I'm lying in my bed and I'm just grateful that the day is over and that tomorrow is a new day. But gratitude keeps us focused on thinking about the good things in our life. And when we express gratitude, our brain actually releases dopamine and serotonin, creating more feelings of happiness and optimism. A is for awareness. Every day for 75 days, write down in your journal how you're feeling in response to what's happened in the day. And if you do this every day, you'll become more aware of the feelings, of which feelings come up more often than others, and what the triggers are for those feelings. The key is not to judge the feeling or not to judge what's happened. Just take note. Looking back at my own journal entries, I was shocked to see how often I was writing about how overwhelmed I felt. My life always seemed to be chaotic, but I just kept writing. And you may notice that you're writing about how unfair life is, or that it sucks that you're not as lucky as so-and-so, whatever it is, don't judge it, just keep writing. R is for reframing, and this step doesn't need a written response every day. Just a moment to notice. Is there perhaps a different way that you can think about your experience or your beliefs? Maybe I can change. Maybe if I think about it differently, it will work out differently, just maybe. In my case, I started realizing that my life was always busy, but that I loved that there was so much going on. The overwhelm that I was writing about frequently wasn't a reflection of how much was going on in my life at the time, but rather a reflection of my state of mind at the time and my belief in my ability to handle it all. So I started to reframe, I feel overwhelmed, with my life is full and I'm fully capable of handling as much as I want to. D is for dream casting. Write down your goals. And I don't mean in a boring, smart way. I mean dream big and then 2x that and cast it out there. I want to travel the world and see new places every year for every year that I can still see. And I want to get there in first class luxury. And then there's A. A is for action. And this is the greatest hack. Just start small. Once you get fit and lose weight, start walking every day for 10 minutes and then increase it to 12 minutes and so forth. Want to learn anything? Meditation, salsa, crochet, accounting, creating a course, growing a YouTube channel, whatever it is, just start. Just take the first step and then every day take one more small step in the direction you want to go. And that's it. If you do these 5 things for 75 days, I promise you your life will change. So whether you believe in the spiritual or the science, remember that it's not just the nature of your thoughts. It's not simply what you think and feel, but rather your true beliefs about yourself and about the outside world. The stuff that's going on in your subconscious mind, your core beliefs, the ones that have been created every single day since you were born, everything you've watched and observed and heard from parents and teachers and friends. All these experiences have stacked one on top of the other, creating your core beliefs, which are in turn mirrored back in your life. Whatever you believe. I'm poor, I'm not lucky, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I can't change, I don't deserve happiness, people are selfish, I just want a simple life, I don't want to be rich. It never works out for me, so why bother trying? I'm just not wired that way. Life will always reflect what you hold to be true in your mind about your life and about the outside world. And if you're unsure what your beliefs are, just take a look. Want to know your beliefs about money? Look at your bank account. Want to know your beliefs about love? Look at your relationships. Want to know your beliefs about your self-worth? Look at your life. Understanding this idea actually creates an amazing opportunity because every single experience you have every single day from today onwards is an opportunity for you to reprogram your thinking and the beliefs that no longer serve you. And so, even if you think everything I've said today is absolute nonsense, if there's just a small part of you that's curious, then give it a try. Because what do you lose if nothing changes? But what can you gain if it does? It's your choice. You can continue to live in the reality that you have already created in your mind, or you can choose to start living in the new reality that you create in your mind. Thank you for listening.